soon after graduating from college. I shared an apartment with some college buddies, and we decided together that we were going to make a trip to the Grand Canyon, hike the Grand Canyon Easter weekend. And so we made all the preparations and bought the gear, mapped out our route, and none of us had really any experience, but we had, great enthusiasm. And so for whatever reason, we picked the Hermit's Trail because it was an ungroomed trail, and that sounded much more adventurous than going down a groomed trail with the burros and the tourists. So we packed up our gear, we drove out to the edge of the Grand Canyon, and we got there in the evening before our hike was to begin. You had to have a permit, of course, to go to the canyon, and we wanted an early start. But we also had no money, and we didn't want to pay the cost of a hotel. So we decided we'd sleep in the car that night before, and had no idea how cold that would be. So we froze our buns off sleeping in the car that night, got up at the crack of dawn, did our best to warm up, got some coffee, and then we drove to the parking lot nearest the trailhead and got out our gear. And I think each of our backpacks weighed an average of about 40 pounds, which that didn't sound like it was a whole lot, right? So we hoisted those things on and started down the Hermit's Trail, an ungroomed trail, which meant that it was barely maintained. And sometimes you could see where the trail was, and sometimes you couldn't, but there wasn't another soul on the trail for hours on end. And that's just the way we wanted it. So we started hiking and went down the trail, and there's switchbacks and there's places with you're out right alongside the cliff. And it didn't take long before we realized that 40 pounds, that's a lot more than it sounds when you're hiking. And so we're laboring down the trail, and the pack's feeling heavier with every step. And the trail was steep enough that it put all the weight in your shoes towards the front of your shoes, right to the toes. So your feet are basically just sliding down against the toes of your boots with your weight and the weight of your pack on the back. And with every step, it would just jam your toes right into the end of the boot. Well, that got old pretty quick. A few young college girls with much lighter packs than ours came up behind us pretty quickly and said, "Hey, can we hike with you guys?" I'm like, "Yeah, of course." And they were fun and they were funny. And suddenly our packs felt lighter and our feet felt better. And we hiked down with them quite a ways. Then when it got to be about dusk, we knew we needed to camp somewhere. And so we found this clearing. So we set up our camp, and we helped the girls set up theirs, or they probably helped us set up ours, truth be told. Stayed there for the night. And then they took off on ahead the next day, and because they were much faster than we were, and we headed down the rest of the way. Now it's about a mile elevation change from the rim of the Grand Canyon to the floor. When we finally did get to the river, we immediately threw our stuff on the beach, took off our boots, and stuck our feet in the icy cold water of the Colorado River. Our feet went numb within seconds, which actually felt quite good. So we were able to ice our feet down, set up our camp, and enjoyed the fruits of our labors. And 2 of the 4 of us had responsibilities at church on Easter Sunday, so we didn't have the luxury of hanging out any longer, even though we had a permit to do so. The next morning, we split up. 2 were staying, and 2 of us were going. We had to get back up by nightfall so that we could get back home for Easter. We hiked up the trail for about 2 hours or so, when suddenly, when we stopped for a water break, it became evident that we had forgotten our filtration system back at the camp with the other guys. We were told very clearly, you don't drink the water straight out of the Grand Canyon. You get some sort of illness, which give you diarrhea, dehydration, possibly kill you if you don't get treated. So this is a serious dilemma now. We're reaching the heat of the day. We have no water, And there's no way we can hike 2 hours back to the river to get the filtration system and the clean water, and then 2 more hours just to get back to where we were now. We knew we'd never make it. So we thought about it and thought, well, we better just keep going and hope for the best. And in fact, one of us had said, I tell you what, if I break your legs, then perhaps a ranger will come by and send a helicopter and ship us both out. But we were afraid, you know, maybe it'll only take one of us, not both of us, and how are we going to break both of each other's legs? Not a great idea, but that's how desperate we were. I would say maybe about the 2/3 point, making our way up the trail, a day hiker comes by. And he comes up and he's in a happy mood. He's all chipper and whistling. He's like, hey guys, how's it going? I'm like, oh, we're gonna die. He says, do you guys need water by chance? I'm like, oh yeah, how did you guess? He says, oh, I got extra. I always carry extra with me. Why don't you guys just take mine? So he poured his water out into our water bottles. And we drank and emptied it out, and he gave us a little more. And we thought, okay, maybe we can make it out of the canyon without dying. So the last part of the trail was the worst in that there was like stair steps built into the rocks, which meant you couldn't just shuffle your feet one in front of another. You had to lift it up and step up onto the next step and onto the next step. And seriously, my body felt like it was 400 pounds and my feet were made out of cement. And we pull our legs up with our hand, with both arms. We put the foot on the next step and then push down with both arms to give us enough leverage to pull our weight up onto that step, and then do it again and again. And every step was a test of our will. We did clear the very top rim just as the sun was setting. It was spectacular. It was beautiful. Sun setting in the canyon behind us, but we could really enjoy it. We kind of laid down, thanked God that we were still alive. We waited out before sunset because it would get really cold after dark, not to mention terribly difficult to navigate the trail. Spent the night at a local hotel nearby, and then drove all day the next day to make sure that we were all ready to go Easter morning. Yeah, suddenly the resurrection took on a whole new meaning. We've been down the world's biggest grave and thought we were going to die, thought that was it. Toast. And on the third day, we emerged victorious. Hallelujah! In the days and weeks that followed that trip, one by one, my toenails just fell off. They'd been bruised so badly beneath the toenail on my toes. Now I do have toenails, which I'm very grateful for. I kind of took them for granted before this trip. Quite honestly, I'm just happy I'm still walking around to tell the story. Come as no surprise to anyone that I have not been back to the Grand Canyon since that trip.